Hey friends, we're here at Wickliffe Mounds State Historic Site where we've just spoken to park staff about all the amazing things there are to do here. We think you're going to want to make it a road trip. Listen along. It is a beautiful day here.
It is.
At Wickliffe Mounds State Park. We are so fortunate to be able to grab time with you. We can't wait to hear about, if you don't care to just give us an introductory overview of what people can find here.
Of course.
When they visit.
Sure. Well, we are a state historic site here with Kentucky State Parks. And what it is really, it's a self-guided tour of a Mississippian Native American mound site. So the Mississippian Native Americans are a pre-contact culture before European exploration. We're actually dated here at Wickliffe Mounds from 1100 AD to 1350.
Oh, wow.
So quite a while ago, I guess you could say. Quite a while ago. So what we have here at the park is 3 mounds for you to explore with information on top of them. We've got a burial, a chief, and a ceremonial mound. Like I said, they all have interpretive information on top of them, and then we have a museum. So our museum building is actually a mound fully excavated. So with the help of archaeologists over the years, we've fully excavated one of these mounds here and built a building over top of it. That building just protects that open excavation from the elements. So when you walk in, you're looking down into an open archaeological field. You get to view those artifacts and some of those archaeological features as well. And then in that museum, we have many glass cases with artifacts inside that tell you more about the Native American life and a little bit more about the actual history of the site itself. So we have a pretty significant history even after the Native Americans. So we've been open to the public since 1932. So it's been quite a while where we've done many different hands of people who have owned the site and kind of run it as what you see today, essentially.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we are talking to you before we tour. Mm-hmm. Which is always nice because we kind of get a preview, if you will.
Yes.
I had no idea that the museum was actually on top of one of the mounds.
Yeah.
That is fascinating.
It is. Because what it really offers you is a good look at how archaeology works. Because that's not always something that is easy for the public to see. Most of these archaeological excavations, they can be available for public viewing. It's just kind of hard to do that. What we have in the museum is unique. It's not seen very often at all, especially for a Mississippian Native American mound site. So it kind of offers a good idea of how archaeology works and how that associates itself to the site. So with the help of archaeology, we're able to explain the site a little bit better in more of a, I guess you could say like a public friendly way. Because most of the time when archaeologists meet or anthropologists meet, we talk a lot of mumbo jumbo that people don't understand. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of words in archaeology that can be a little confusing, or we already know what it means, but it's kind of hard to tell the public exactly what that means without a little bit more education. So having the museum set up the way it is a really helpful tool.
Buzzwords these days are all about accessibility and transparency, and that seems like the museum fits that
it is
need that the culture has right now.
Definitely.
To really understand.
We have a very, very healthy relationship with the Chickasaw Nation. Here in Western Kentucky, we're called the Jackson Purchase area, and this is all Chickasaw Nation homeland. So we've been in contact with them for over 20 years, and we talk with them every year. We actually have cultural days usually every year where we have either our friends from Ada, Oklahoma will come and have a dance troupe. That's one of the things we have sometimes. Or just recently we had a cultural day with our friends from Tupelo, Mississippi. So they came up and did a cultural day with us. So we're always in constant contact with the Chickasaw Nation and the other Native American nations in the area. It just so happens to be that the Chickasaw are kind of our closest friends, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But we're willing to speak with anybody who has any concerns or wants to know anything about the site itself. We're very open and transparent with
Because
that.
this is not only a burial site, but it was also a commerce site as well.
Correct. So the site itself, it was here for quite a while, at least 3 or 4 generations. More really, because the generations were quite small. Unfortunately, the lifespan was not very what
That
we
makes
think
sense,
of. Yeah,
right.
so the lifespan was quite short at that time. So it wasn't just a living area; it was a influential site in the Mississippian culture that we know of. So, for example, we talk a lot about Cahokia, which is a huge Mississippian settlement outside of East St. Louis. They had anywhere from 15 to 20,000 people there at their height of civilization. Mississippian culture stems from that site.
Okay.
So we are a considerably smaller village. We only had around 300 people, but we were very influential in the way that right over there is the confluence of the Ohio and the Mississippi River. Usually along this Mississippi River, wherever there's any type of confluences, we see a gathering of a pretty significant site.
Yeah.
So commerce especially, we had a lot of trade, and in our museum we actually have a whole cabinet over trade. So for example, here in Western Kentucky, we don't see a lot of copper naturally in the soil itself. It does occur, but it's just not that common. But we see copper from the Great Lakes region. So we actually have a couple of instances of copper we've traced back to the Great Lakes, and it had to get here somehow. So that trade
Probably
was
a waterway.
exactly.
Right.
So that trade was very, very important between these people. We also have what we call our chief's mound here. We believe, and through our investigations and excavations over the years, that whoever lived on top of this chief's mound may have not been called a chief, but they were important in this society. And more than likely, they were put here in place by somebody in Cahokia. That's one of the theories we have here. So they were able to kind of keep the culture and keep the peace, essentially, where it was still following that Mississippian cultural practice.
Yeah. So you said that there are 3 mounds here.
Mm-hmm.
One has been excavated, or all 3 have been?
All 3 have been
Okay.
excavated. So from the beginning in 1932, we did have 9 different mounds here.
Okay.
2 of them were unfortunately destroyed accidentally. It was not on
Sure.
purpose, as they were building this Highway 51 here in front of the park. So that was very much an accident. They didn't know, but they were kind of just blowing through the
Yeah.
countryside to make room for that road. So when Fane King, our original owner in 1932, he purchased the site from a lumber company here called the Wisconsin Chair Factory. So when he purchased the site in 1932, he began excavations. And over the years, these other mounds have been not necessarily fully excavated, but they've been excavated.
Right.
They've been opened. So for example, our burial mound was open at one point. Here behind us is we'll probably see it a little bit later, but our chief's mound was open at one point as well. Our ceremonial mound had a structure on top of it that kind of showed you what it might have looked like when the Native Americans were here. Then our other 2 mounds, unfortunately, one of them was fully excavated to the ground, so it's no longer available for us to see. And our other mound is actually unstable. So we have it where it's a safety precaution.
Sure.
It's right here we're on this huge natural bluff, and it's right along that cliff's edge.
Yeah,
so we just have let it grow up.
So the mounds had significance. Each mound had different
Right.
meaning.
Yes. So, for example, like our ceremonial mound, we know that it was what we call a non-residential mound. Nobody lived there. We didn't find any living refuse or, examples of, like, let's say a cooking fire, for example. It definitely had a fire there that was burned continuously. But it wasn't somewhere somebody lived. So that's kind of how we associate it to be possibly a ceremonial or a religious area. The burial mound is just exactly why it's called that. That's where the adults and larger children would have been interred into that mound itself. So they all just have a different meaning to them from what we can understand.
Sure.
So I'm going to take it back to like a real basic question.
Sure.
why mounds? I mean, why was the earth actually mounded up?
So
What's the theory on that?
that's a good question. The Mississippians are very well known for building these mounds. Back in the day, it's not that long ago, but they were referred to as the mound builders. We don't use those words very often anymore. It's the Mississippian culture. And really, the mounds themselves were a show of not necessarily power, but of importance. So something is elevated to show its significance. So, for example, our burial mound may not have been built in the way we're thinking, where the mound was just built immediately to be a certain size. That mound grew almost naturally over the years of occupation. So the longer a site's occupied, the larger that burial mound will become. Now, for our ceremonial mound, that is a little bit of a different story. It was built in stages. So what we assume from those stages is whoever was in charge or whoever was running the site at that point, as it was handed off from generation to generation, they chose to make that mound larger and more grand. So that's kind of a good way to think about it, is some of these mounds were just built in stages. So really just the mounds themselves, like I said, it just shows the significance of one thing or another.
And what is common to humanity to want to
Elevate things, definitely.
bigger,
Yeah.
larger,
Yes.
as we progress.
Right.
Elevation.
Exactly. Like Cahokia Mounds, their largest mound is like over 150 feet tall. So
Wow.
it's a very large mound there. And the reason it's that large is because we kind of, in our modern day thinking, we can think of it almost as like a capital for the Mississippian people. So
And that would make that would make sense. And it also is a show of organization, working together.
Exactly.
Things can happen, but individuals probably could, but they wouldn't. You have to have a group, a community, a civilization to accomplish things.
Yeah, and it also offers us a view into their lifestyle as well. The fact that they had the time to actually create and work on these mounds is a really good indicator that they were very well settled. So they had the free time to do these things. The Mississippians had the opportunity to develop farming to their advantage. So they were no longer what we would consider like a hunting and gatherer society. They still did that, definitely, but they also could fall back and rely on that farming as well. So that just offered them, free time to do things like build mounds. And that kind of shows us, like I said, the progression of the civilization.
I'm sure the resources in this area were plentiful.
At that point, yes.
Yeah.
So definitely it would have looked a lot different than it does today. The river here in front of us, just across the street really, it would have been probably a little bit smaller and a little bit more uncontrolled, because nowadays we have our locks and our dams that kind of change the way the river is shaped. So it might have been in a little bit of a different place at that point, but they definitely had it to rely upon. Here in Western Kentucky, we're considered the waterlands, so we have a lot of water available kind of everywhere really. Lots of creeks, streams, rivers, ponds, lakes, anything you could really think of. We've got swamps even. So they definitely had access to kind of the perfect area for them to, survive and thrive, is what we like to say. They were thriving here.
And waters create fertile soil, which again spoke to their
Exactly. With this river, we can think of it almost as like the relationship between the Egyptians and the Nile River. So they wait for that flooding to happen and the waters recede, and they leave what we call alluvial soils that are rich in nutrients. Mississippians had the same idea. So they were able to use that river flooding to their advantage to re-fertilize the actual fields that they were actually using. So, and corn, which was one of their main food sources, takes a lot of nutrients. So they were able to kind of harness that, something we would consider very, unpredictable, but they were able to do it and use it to their advantage. So
they were a society obviously much more in tune to the natural rhythms
yes.
of things.
Yeah, very seasonal, very dependent on time. They would have access to certain foods only at certain times of the year. So they were very much in tune with where they lived and how to thrive in that type of environment.
It's very peaceful here. I think we could all just really
Just take a moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
take a moment and chill. It's and is this a mound right behind you?
It
That-
is,
that's the
yes.
ceremonial
That's our
mound.
ceremonial. It's our largest mound. It's around 10 or 12 feet tall. So if we, like we said about Cahokia, it was a much larger site compared to us, but we are no less important than
Of course.
Cahokia.
Right.
But it's a very, very peaceful area, especially, considering what it would have looked like 900 years ago. It was really just like a green oasis almost.
Yeah.
They had a lot of beauty and natural beauty to appreciate here, and we still have that today.
Yeah, you can feel that today in the
Mhm.
park.
Yeah.
Just being here.
Yes.
Now, so visitors,
Mhm.
which is who we're doing this for today.
Yes.
People who want to road trip and see you,
Mhm.
they can go to the museum.
Yes, museum.
You're going to do some spear throwing for us
We,
in a bit.
we do offer some activities here. We have lots of games, especially for families.
Wonderful.
So all you have to do is come to the front desk and either ask me or anybody that's at the front desk at that time, and we can get you set up with all kinds of games or activities. On our Facebook page, we like to announce when we're having certain things. For example, this Saturday we have World Migratory Bird Day, so we're going to be doing some showing some DIY ways to help
Okay.
support migratory birds here in the area. So every month kind of has a little bit of a different theme. So definitely, checking that out and just, seeing that and figuring out, well, could we make it to Kentucky in this month and possibly come and visit on this day to enjoy this activity. So really it's we offer a lot for our visitors.
So everyone just needs to stay tuned and
Exactly.
follow
Yeah.
your information.
Mhm.
What are your migratory birds most prominent in this area?
Most prominent here in Kentucky, we have a lot of songbirds and warblers. So they are kind of like subtropical species. They come from South America to summer here in the area. For example, one of the more striking we have is the summer tanager. Very bright, almost fluorescent red songbird. They're very beautiful. Usually you can spot them, and it's like we have cardinals here all year round, and you can definitely tell that is not a cardinal.
Oh, wow.
They are
Okay.
so violently red
Yeah.
in such a very, very beautiful way. And of course, the American robin is actually a migratory bird as well. So we get to see them show up. Usually when you start to see a robin, you say, okay, winter's
It's-
finally
yeah,
over.
yeah.
We're
Yeah.
getting there.
Yeah.
And like we said, this is the waterlands of Kentucky. So in January and February, we get a lot of our migratory waterfowl. So that's like our pintails, our red-headed ducks. Some of the other ducks stay here year round, but we do get a couple of other species that come in and just like to spend the summer here in good old Kentucky.
Yeah, just like us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And now, how many acres do you have here on the park?
We have 26.
Okay.
Only around 10% of that is where you can actually view.
Accessible.
And the rest of it is actually almost what we would consider like a nature preserve.
Sure.
So it's not accessed by anybody other than maybe our rangers, or if we have to go and access those areas. We do have a trail, which is around 200 yards through the actual woods here. It's our
Okay.
woods walk trail. And of course, we always encourage do not go off trail.
Yeah.
We have lots of critters that are here, and we're here on this natural bluff, so it is always safe to stay on trail, especially even if it's only a 200-yard trail. But it's very beautiful. We have lots of trees and natural plants that would have been here when the Native Americans were here as well. So it kind of just gives you a good idea of almost like a look into the past of what it could have looked like when these people were living here.
So what are your all's hours of operation?
So we are here Wednesday through Sunday, 9 till 5. Our buildings close at 4:30. So our park gates don't close till 5. That gives plenty of time for people to visit the museum before closure, and then have plenty of time to actually see the site and the mounds themselves.
Yeah.
So just Wednesday through Sunday.
And that's your summer time.
Those are my summer hours. Yeah. Those are summer hours. As we move into past November, that's when we start to change a little bit. And we'll announce that, of course, and give you an updated hours of operation. But
Love that.
from here till November.
How long? I mean, I know this is a wide open question, but if a family comes and they want to play some games and they want to see the museum and how long should they plan to be here?
Really, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to do.
It's a
and
wide
it's a
open
lot of
question,
it's a
right.
lot of information to take in. Usually I would say anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours.
Okay.
Some people are here for 45 minutes. It really depends on how you absorb your information. Some people just like to read quick and get the information and stretch their legs and then get on the way. Some people can be here for half a day.
Yeah.
It really just depends on, however long you want to spend here. But I usually recommend about an hour and a half.
I like the way because we are so different in the way we absorb our information.
Exactly, yeah.
And how we are stunned by what we're seeing. Take some time to reflect on that.
Definitely.
That's part of all of that, I think. And are there fees associated with the park?
We do have a small fee. It's $6 for adults, $5 for seniors and veterans, or senior ages 62 and up, and $4 for children 5 to 15. Under 5, they're free.
And
So
that's of course for this summer, this year.
Yes.
And you all don't have camping or anything like that on site?
We do not have any camping here on site. There is a campground south of us at Columbus Belmont State Park. That's our sister park. They do have campgrounds available for RV camping and some primitive camping as well. So that's something you could really look into if you wanted to spend a couple of days here in Western Kentucky. Visit our park for a day, sleep at Columbus Belmont, visit that park, and enjoy yourself there as well. Kind of like a little combo, in a couple of days. So it just depends on how you would like to travel and if you wanted to stay somewhere like that.
Yeah. You all have many beautiful state parks in this area.
Yes, we do. Definitely. Western Kentucky, we're kind of really all of Kentucky, we're a little green jewel. There's so many, it's so beautiful. All of our parks are just stunning, and myself personally, I love Kentucky State Parks. I think they're some of the most beautiful ever anywhere.
Yeah.
We are fans.
Yes,
for sure.
Big fans. Yeah.
So is there anything we haven't asked you that you would like to share and make sure people know?
Not really, other than, just look out on our social medias, see what we've got going on. There's usually always something happening. Like I said, every month there's a different theme. We work hard to kind of bring that type of thing to our visitors. We always encourage you to come back, if you'd like to come back and spend more time here. But really, I think we've covered exactly what I would cover with anybody who walks into the Welcome Center.
Okay, cool.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yes,
we appreciate it, and
no
we're
problem.
ready to see it all now.
Exactly,
can't wait to step into the museum.
Yes, yeah.
And see what you have.
It'll
for
be
us.
a real treat. I think you'll really enjoy it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.